Now, this was a really unique and original horror film. And what's so unique about it is that it takes place on like a completely different like location and time period than a lot of other horror films. Because whereas like a lot of horror movies take place in like a haunted house or a cabin in the woods, this takes place on a farm from the 1600s. And it's about a family and where weird occurrences start happening to them. And unlike some other horror films that like primarily rely on like cheap scares, like jump scares in order to like scare the audience, this like mostly relies upon like the atmosphere to build up just like an impending sense of dread. And Anna Taylor-Joy, I think that's her name, she did an absolutely amazing performance here. Like she absolutely killed her role. And the ending in this movie, like, goddamn, like, let's just say that this movie does not have a happy ending at all. And overall, I think this is definitely, like, one of the better horror films of the 2010s decade.
The Florida Project is a careful examination of childhood innocence corrupted by lack. The story of the film couldn't be more simple. A struggling mother, Haley, does all she can to try to keep her child safe and sheltered in a motel, whilst her 6-year-old daughter, Moni, tries to hold on to her childhood. It's a movie that is both heartbreaking and hopeful, making the character's poverty feel inescapable and real, whilst injecting the drama with young Moni's growing thirst for mischief and adventure, as the film centers around her days of sheer innocence and finding a place in an uncaring world. With a cast made up of debut actors and a career best Willem Dafoe as the motel's stern but caring landlord, The Florida Project is a deeply moving movie about poor families and childhood that feels so painfully authentic.
Robert Eggers created an amazing movie with The Witch. Here he made an even better one with The Lighthouse. Now, Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe were absolutely phenomenal in this movie. They just, like, really did a great job at, like, playing these two characters who were verging on the edge of insanity. And the location for this movie just really gives off this, like, sense of dread. Like, just like the location itself feels, like, totally haunted. And the cinematography in this movie was amazing and really just like adds to this feeling of like uneasiness. And while this movie might not be like the scariest, it's definitely like really creepy from start to finish. And what's also so great about it is like how ambiguous it is, because like a lot of it is like left to like the viewer's imaginations, and like they're left to decide whether like what's happening is like really occurring or not. And that's like what's so great about it, is because like it's up to the audience to like really decide.
With Lady Bird being the solo directorial debut from Greta Gerwig, it's one of the best movies in the coming-of-age genre. With its stellar cast and sharp screenplay, there's just so much to love about Lady Bird. Set in the early 2000s, the film focuses on the relationship between a teenage girl named Christine, who goes by her alias Lady Bird, and her protective, put-upon mother, played by Laurie Metcalf, as they begin to take on new shapes. Gerwig's hilarious and harrowing assessment of family discord is so deeply thought-provoking and honest. Lyrical in its dialogue and bittersweet in its depiction of adolescent turmoil and the highs and lows of parenthood, the comedy drama is at once fresh, witty, relatable, and heartwarming. With a combination of Greta Gerwig's heartwarming storytelling and the daring performances from Saoirse Ronan and Laurie Metcalf, all of its strengths comes together beautifully. Lady Bird brilliantly demonstrates A24 skills for portraying lessons learned through trial and error rather than some life-changing event, making the film a memorable entry in its bag of successes.
While this movie wasn't as good or as scary as Hereditary, it was still like a really solid follow-up. And it explores like a lot of the same themes that like made Hereditary so successful, because like unlike a lot of horror films which like rely on mostly like cheap scares, this deals with like more human themes to like really make the audience like uneasy. And Florence Pugh in this movie was absolutely incredible. she really did just like such a good job at like portraying like that inner conflict within her character. Like you could just like genuinely feel like each of the emotions she was feeling throughout the movie. And the cinematography in this movie was absolutely just gorgeous. Like I seriously just like wanted to visit that location after I watched the movie, even though it's a pretty fucked up place. And a lot of what also makes this movie so great is how it doesn't just like get to the point just like straight away. Like it leaves like small clues throughout the movie, which makes it so like the audience can like guess like what's going on, and that makes it so like the final reveal is like all the more shocking when you realize like what's actually happening. And although I don't think this movie is necessarily perfect, like the pacing can like drag on way too long at times, and also that like ritual sex scene I just found to be like really cringy. But overall, this is still like a really great movie and a great follow-up to Hereditary.
Now, it's no secret that Adam Sandler is an actor who's always been known for being featured in movies that are objectively terrible, whether if it's Little Nicky, Eight Crazy Nights, the Grown Ups movies, Pixels, and even the worst of all, the 2011 abomination Jack and Jill. But make no mistake about it, Sandler has proven plenty of times that he's capable of being a good actor when he's in the hands of the right director. From Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love, The Meyerowitz Story, and even Hustle. But in his role in Uncut Gems directed by the Safdie brothers, it marked a huge career high for Sandler. Sandler gives possibly the best performance of his career as a Jewish man named Howard Ratner, who owns a jewelry store in New York City and has an eccentric temperament. After getting in over his head with some money, jewelry loans, and angering the people that he works with, Howard unfortunately finds himself in a hard-to-escape situation that escalates from bad to worse. Similar to Good Time, Uncut Gems is a fast-paced, funny, entertaining, and anxiety-inducing thriller that grabs your attention from start to finish.
Now, this is definitely one of the best movies of the past decade, if you ask me, and honestly, probably the best movie of 2016, in my opinion. Now, this movie follows a boy named Chiron through three stages of his life, childhood, teenage years, and adulthood. And it does so in a way that, like, almost feels, like, autobiographical, and, like, you're actually, like, watching, like, a real person's life. And the guy who played Chiron did like an absolutely incredible job at portraying the character. And this is also a movie that like I feel like is pretty relatable to like most people, especially those who have felt like isolated for like a lot of their lives. And the main character is just like so sympathetic, and you just like really like want to root for him and like want him to like overcome his struggles because of like how difficult his life is. And like he also like the movie does a like great job like dwelling on like the like his insecurities, like his feelings. And yeah, this was just like a movie that was like so powerful, and I feel like watching it like really like opens up your eyes to like other people's lives. And yeah, this is just a movie I feel like everyone should watch at like least once.
Now, for someone like me who is a huge 90s junkie, this is a movie that I instantly loved on the first viewing. Written and directed by Jonah Hill, mid-90s crafts such a beautiful coming-of-age tale about a 13-year-old kid named Stevie who struggles with this toxic home life with a mother who's a little too overexpressive and his brother who's an antisocial bully. However, when Stevie stumbles across a group of skateboarders, he instantly strikes a connection with them and becomes their friend. After getting his first skateboard, Stevie quickly falls in love with his daredevil energy with his new fellow skateboarding friends. I adore everything about mid-90s, from the 90s aesthetics, the cinematography, and overall the quietly thought-provoking story about masculinity, ambition, and friendship. It may be a bit heartbreaking to watch at times. Jonah Hill brilliantly uses a natural bouncing chemistry and a grainy frame to capture adolescence in its truest form.
Now, this is one of my absolute favorite horror films, and while it doesn't really scare me as much as like it does some other people, I just like really like love like the dark and disturbing nature of it. And what makes this movie so terrifying is how it deals with like a lot of themes that like people can relate to, like whether it comes to like losing a loved one or like having trust issues. And like this movie just like portrays those things in like such an intense and like visceral way that like it almost like feels real, and like you're like watching like real occurrences. And the performance in this movie were absolutely just like mind blowing. But the standout of this film was definitely Toni Collette. Like she just did like such like a great job at like portraying the mixture between like sadness and grief and just like anger that like her character felt throughout the film. And just like that scene at the dinner table was just like holy shit. Like that was definitely some of like the best acting I've ever seen. And this is just like a movie that I just like really enjoy like watching over and over, and just like I never like fail to get sick of it because like it's just like super like entertaining to me, and like it always like has me on like the edge of my seat.
American Honey is a movie that I love so much, and I think it's an absolute travesty that people sleep on this film. American Honey is an eccentric exploration about a teenage girl's life and how the world has always denied her what she deserves. And now that she's finally out to get her own, she's brimming with hope and curiosity. Directed by Andrea Arnold, you have Sasha Lane in her film debut as the character star, a young woman who tries to find her purpose in life as she escapes a desperately rough existence by joining a roving band of teenagers who sell magazines door to door across the states. In addition, you have Shia LaBeouf, who puts forth what is probably a career best in this film as the group's top salesman and love interest to star, along with Riley Keough, who rounds out the ensemble of leads with a characteristically brilliant turn as the crew boss. It's a movie that may feel a bit long for some people, but time flies in a jiffy when you're looking at a charming cast of characters cruising through the Midwest, with American Honey brilliantly displaying Star's journey towards purpose and belonging.